Have you ever stopped and asked yourself this? Why do so many men feel heavy inside, even when they're doing everything right in life? Why do you sometimes feel like you're pushing a giant boulder uphill day after day without ever reaching the top? It's not just stress, it's not just bad luck, it's something deeper. It's the invisible weight of expectation. Men are told they must always be strong, always have the answers, always carry the load without breaking. Society whispers in your ear every single day, don't be weak, don't fall, don't show pain. And so many men wake up, put on their mask, and walk into the world pretending they're fine, while inside they feel like they're collapsing. But here's the truth that almost no one talks about. This invisible pressure is the real battle of a man's life. It's not just about chasing success. It's not just about getting women. It's not just about making money. The deeper struggle is learning how to carry this invisible weight without letting it break your spirit. And here's where the Stoic path comes in. The ancient Stoics understood something that today's men desperately need to remember. Life will never get lighter, but you can get stronger. Think about that for a moment. Let it sink in. You can't control the storms life throws at you. You can't control how women see you. You can't control how the world judges you. But what you can control is your response, your attitude, your inner strength, your calm when everything outside is chaos. That's the real difference between a man who breaks and a man who becomes unshakable. Most men today chase validation. They need approval, likes, compliments, and attention just to feel good enough. But the Stoic man, he's different. He doesn't chase, he doesn't beg, he doesn't bend just to be liked. He stands tall because his worth is already inside him. He knows no one can give him what he already owns. And here's the emotional truth most men avoid facing. If you don't build this inner strength, life will crush you. You'll drown in stress. You'll collapse under pressure. You'll cling to women, to money, to status, hoping they save you, but they never will. Because the power was never out there. It was always in here, inside you. So let me ask you right now, what kind of man are you becoming? Are you letting the world's weight crush your soul, or are you slowly, steadily, and powerfully training yourself to become a rock that cannot be moved? This exact moment is where your journey begins. The world will test you, women will test you, life will test you, but if you can build that calm, that strength, that inner fire, nothing can touch you. The hidden currency. She can't resist. Self-control. Let me ask you something. What really separates a man who's easily forgotten from a man who leaves a permanent mark in her mind? It's not just money, looks, or charm. Those things fade, come and go. The true power lies in something far rarer, self-control. Think about it. Most men are ruled by impulses. They react when she tests them, they chase when she pulls back, they explode when they feel jealous. Their emotions are like wild horses running loose, and what happens? She loses respect. She sees weakness, because deep down she knows a man who can't control himself can't truly lead her, protect her, or inspire her. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine you as the man who stays calm when others panic, the man who doesn't jump at every text, every glance, or every temptation. Instead of being dragged by emotions, you guide them. Instead of being a prisoner to your urges, you master them. That right there is the hidden currency of attraction. It makes her lean in, wonder about you, and even feel slightly nervous around you because she realizes you're operating on a higher level. Why does this matter so much? Because women are emotional creatures. They feel, they sense, they test. When she sees that you can hold your ground no matter what storm she creates, something powerful happens. Her trust in you grows. And with trust comes respect. And with respect comes attraction. A man with self-control doesn't argue over nonsense. He doesn't show off to gain validation. He doesn't beg for attention. Instead, he creates a silent gravity around himself. and this gravity pulls her in without him ever having to chase. But let's go deeper. Self-control isn't just about her. It's about you building yourself into the kind of man who wins in every area of life. The man who wakes up early, trains his body, controls his diet, disciplines his thoughts, guards his words. The man who doesn't collapse under pressure, but thrives in it. When you show this discipline, it bleeds into your aura and she feels it. She can't explain why she's drawn to you, but she is. Most men want quick results. They want the secret text, the magic line, the shortcut. But here's the truth. Attraction is not a trick. It's a reflection of your inner strength. When you learn to master yourself, you automatically master how she sees you. So ask yourself, what's more powerful? A man who spends his energy chasing her approval, or a man who uses that energy to build his empire, knowing she will chase him because she senses his control? That's the choice. That's the difference. And that's why self-control isn't just optional, it's the foundation of everything. The quiet power of self-discipline. Have you ever noticed how the loudest men in the room are often the weakest ones deep down, while the calm, disciplined man barely speaks, yet everyone feels his presence? This isn't an accident, it's the result of self-discipline, and it's one of the most overlooked secrets of attraction and respect. See, most men lose control when faced with temptation, emotions, or even simple daily habits. They eat when they're stressed. They argue when they feel disrespected. They chase when they feel lonely. And guess what happens? They become predictable. They become easy to manipulate. They hand over their power without even realizing it. But the man who practices self-discipline, he is different. He trains himself to pause before reacting, to choose long-term strength over short-term comfort. He doesn't need to announce his control. It shows in the way he walks, the way he decides, the way he stays calm when others break down. Think about it. Women don't respect the man who can't control his hunger, his anger, or his desires. They might use him, but they'll never truly value him. Why? Because deep inside, people know, if you cannot rule yourself, you cannot lead anyone else. Self-discipline creates an aura of reliability. People can trust you because you're not driven by impulse. Women can admire you because you stand firm when others fold, and you yourself gain something even greater, self-respect. Because every time you control your urges, every time you resist a cheap thrill, you silently prove to yourself that you are stronger than the moment. Here's the truth most men ignore. Attraction isn't built only on looks, money, or words. It's built on how you carry yourself when pressure rises. Do you break, or do you remain unshaken? That single difference separates the ordinary man from the man who is remembered. So if you want to rise above the noise, don't chase chaos. Master yourself. Build quiet discipline into your life. Eat with control. Speak with intention. Act with patience. And you'll see, women, men, and the world itself will look at you differently. The power of silence and stillness. Let me ask you something powerful. Have you ever noticed how the loudest man in the room is usually the weakest one? He's the one trying to prove, to perform, to shout, so others notice him. Yet the man who sits still, calm and silent, he's the one who carries true weight. Why? Because silence, my brother, is not emptiness, it's power. When you sit in silence, when you allow pauses in your words, when you don't rush to fill the air with nervous chatter, you create mystery. And mystery is magnetic. People lean in, they wonder what's on your mind. They can't predict your next move. That unpredictability makes you valuable. Think about it. When a king enters a room, does he rush to talk, laugh loudly, or seek approval? No, he observes, he studies, he allows others to speak first. And when he finally speaks, his words carry the weight of gold. Because he didn't waste his energy on meaningless noise. Silence also shows emotional control. A man who doesn't need to argue every point, defend every opinion, or prove himself through words. He radiates confidence. He shows that he values his energy too much to waste it on the unimportant. Women sense this. They see a man who isn't desperate for attention, who doesn't seek validation, and they respect it, even if they don't admit it. But here's where silence becomes a true weapon. It forces others to reveal themselves. When you hold silence, people fill it with their truths. They show you their intentions, their weaknesses, their emotions, and all you had to do was stay calm. That's strategy. That's power. Stillness works the same way. In a world where men are restless, chasing, fidgeting, proving, your stillness becomes rare. Imagine sitting at a table, calm, composed, no rush, no anxiety. That energy speaks louder than 1,000 words. It tells the world, I am enough. I don't need to move to be powerful. My presence alone is enough. The truth is, silence and stillness are not signs of weakness. They're signs of deep inner strength. They are the language of men who have mastered themselves. And when you master them, people can't help but see you as rare and valuable. Why saying less makes you stronger? Most men don't realize this. Silence is not weakness. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is power. When a man can sit in silence without rushing to fill the air with words, without explaining himself, without chasing approval, he shows something that very few people ever master: control over himself. Think about it. Most people talk too much. They talk to prove themselves. They talk to cover their insecurities. They talk because they can't handle the weight of silence. But when you remain calm, steady, and quiet, people lean in. They wonder what you're thinking. They start to feel your presence instead of your words. A high-value man does not reveal everything at once. He lets mystery do the work. He understands that silence draws more curiosity than constant chatter. This is why women find men who speak less, but with purpose, far more attractive than men who talk endlessly to impress. Every word you say should carry weight, and the fewer words you use, the more weight they hold. Silence also protects you. It keeps you from overreacting, from saying something you'll regret, from giving away your emotions too easily. In arguments, silence can be your shield. Instead of exploding with anger or trying to prove your point, you can simply pause, breathe, and let the other person reveal themselves. Because here's the truth: when emotions run high, the one who speaks less almost always has more control. Even in leadership, silence is powerful. A man who can stay silent, observe, and listen deeply gains information others miss. People respect him more because he doesn't need to fight for attention. His presence commands it naturally. So if you want to increase your value instantly, practice saying less. Don't rush to respond. Don't explain yourself when you don't need to. Don't fear the pause in conversation, because in those pauses, power is born. A man's silence speaks louder than 1,000 words, and the moment you master it, the world begins to treat you differently, with more respect, more curiosity, and more admiration. How mystery makes her chase you harder. Have you ever noticed that the people we can't fully figure out are the ones who stay on our mind the longest? Think about it. When someone is an open book, predictable in every move, you may enjoy them at first, but soon the excitement fades. Why? Because there's no puzzle left to solve. Humans are wired to be drawn to mystery. It stirs curiosity, sparks imagination, and creates emotional hooks that plain honesty sometimes can't. This is exactly why strategic silence and unpredictability are so powerful in attraction. Not silence out of weakness, not unpredictability out of immaturity, but intentional mystery that keeps her leaning forward, always wondering what's on your mind, always trying to decode who you are. Why mystery works like fire in attraction? Mystery works because it makes her brain do the work. Instead of handing her every answer, you create a space where she fills in the blanks. And when she fills in the blanks, she invests. She starts imagining you as deeper, more layered, more rare. Psychologists call this the Zeigarnik effect. the human tendency to remember and obsess over unfinished stories. If you're too quick to explain yourself, too eager to share everything, you close the story too soon. But when you leave a little unsaid, she keeps replaying it in her head. That replay builds emotional tension, the very tension that makes attraction magnetic. The power of strategic silence. Let's be clear, silence doesn't mean ignoring her. It means you know when not to say something. For example, when she asks, "So what are you doing tonight?" instead of giving the full play-by-play, you might just smile and say, "You'll see." When she expects an instant reply, you sometimes take your time, showing that you're not glued to your phone. When she pushes for details too fast, you answer in a way that leaves her curious rather than fully satisfied. This isn't about playing childish games, it's about showing that you have a life she can't completely access right away, that she must earn the right to know you. The magnetism of unpredictability. Predictability kills attraction. If she knows exactly when you'll call, what you'll say, how you'll react, she won't feel the thrill of being around you. But if your energy has a touch of unpredictability, she'll stay on her toes. For example, sometimes you're deeply present, listening with focus. Other times you pull back, creating space that makes her miss you. Sometimes you share a story from your past. Sometimes you hold back and let her wonder. Unpredictability doesn't mean being unstable. It means being dynamic, just like fire, warm enough to draw her close, but never so contained that she can control it. Mystery builds respect. Here's the truth. A man who reveals everything too soon is subconsciously telling her, "I need your approval, so let me hand you all of me on a plate." That kills respect. But a man who carries mystery shows strength. He communicates, "I'm not here to impress you. I have layers you may never fully see, and that's okay. I don't need to be understood by everyone." This self-possession is irresistible. Why? Because women respect what they cannot fully control. Practical ways to cultivate mystery. 1. Don't overshare. You don't need to spill your whole life story in the first few weeks. Let things unfold naturally. 2. Pause before you answer. Silence before a response shows you're thoughtful, not desperate to fill space. Keep a private life. Not everything you do needs to be broadcasted on social media. Let some of your world remain unseen. 4. Surprise her. Not with gifts, but with your energy. Be unpredictable in the way you spend time. Sometimes deep talks, sometimes playful, sometimes space. 5. Use silence in conversation. When she expects you to explain more, stop just short. That pause will often make her chase for the missing piece. The Stoic layer to mystery. A Stoic man doesn't need the world to validate him. He knows who he is. He stands calmly in his own identity. This calmness is what makes him mysterious. He doesn't rush to explain himself. He doesn't rush to prove himself. He simply lives, and others lean in trying to understand. The world today is loud, desperate, and attention-hungry, but the man who can sit in silence, comfortable in his own presence, becomes a rare force. His mystery is not an act, it's a reflection of his inner strength. The result, she chases the unknown. When you master mystery, you flip the dynamic. Instead of you chasing her attention, she chases your depth. She can't stop thinking about you because she never feels she fully has you, and that tension keeps her invested. Mystery is not about manipulation. It's about alignment with a deeper truth. You are a man too complex, too layered, too focused on life to ever be fully consumed by one person. That's what makes you magnetic. Have you ever noticed how the quietest man in the room often carries the most weight? When everyone else is busy talking, joking, or trying to impress, he just sits back, calm, composed, observant, and without saying a single word, people begin to feel his presence. That's not an accident, that's the power of silence. See, most men waste their energy with noise. Endless talking, over-explaining, showing off, or trying to fill every empty space with chatter. But silence? Silence is rare. Silence is powerful. It makes people lean in. It makes them wonder what's going on in your mind. And for women especially, it creates an irresistible sense of mystery. Why? Because silence signals control. When you're not rushing to fill the air, you're showing that you are comfortable with yourself. You don't need approval. You don't need validation. You don't need to prove anything. And that confidence speaks louder than words ever could. Think about it. A man who can sit in silence with a woman, without fidgeting, without forcing conversation, without showing nervousness, that man separates himself from almost every other guy she's ever met. Most men crumble under silence. They panic. They start talking about useless things just to escape the discomfort. But the high-value man, he embraces it. And here's where it gets deeper. Silence isn't just about not talking. It's about directing your presence. It's about controlling the energy you project without saying a word. When you enter a room, do people feel calm? Do they feel tension? Do they feel curiosity? That's all part of your silent influence. Your silence becomes a canvas for others' imagination. People begin to project their own thoughts, their own curiosity, their own interest onto you. And when it comes to attraction, this is powerful. Instead of giving away every detail about who you are, you let her wonder. Instead of explaining yourself, you let her feel you. Instead of chasing with words, you allow the silence to work for you. And here's the truth. Words often weaken attraction. Talking too much can kill mystery. But silence, when used wisely, creates tension. And tension is the heartbeat of attraction. Think about the most powerful movie scenes you've ever seen. The ones that made your chest tighten, were they filled with constant dialogue? Or were they built on silence, looks, pauses, and presence? This is the art of silence in your own life. It's not about saying nothing, it's about saying less and meaning more. It's about controlling not only what you say, but also when you say it. It's about letting your energy, your body language, and your calmness do the talking for you. When you master silence, you no longer compete for attention. You command it. You no longer beg for validation, you create it. And you no longer chase attraction, you inspire it. So ask yourself, are you the man who can sit in silence and let your presence do the work? Or are you the man who fears silence and hides behind words? Have you ever noticed how some men can walk into a room and say almost nothing, yet still capture everyone's attention? It's not the loudest man who gets the deepest respect. It's the one who knows when to stay silent, when to let others talk, and when to speak only a few sharp, meaningful words. This power, the power of silence, is one of the rarest forms of masculine strength. Most men chase with words. They over-explain. They argue, they try to impress with stories, but the man who is comfortable with silence sends a far stronger message. He shows he is not desperate for approval. He doesn't need to fill the air just to feel valuable. His presence alone carries weight. That's why silence is so dangerous. It makes others lean toward you. It makes her wonder, what is he thinking? Why is he not reacting? Why does he seem so calm while others rush to speak? That mystery pulls her deeper. Silence is not emptiness, it's control. Think about it. When you stay quiet in a heated moment, you hold all the power. The other person rushes to fill the gap, revealing their emotions, their weaknesses, their true intentions, but you remain steady. That's how kings, warriors, and leaders have always kept authority. They didn't waste energy on endless words. They let silence sharpen their presence. In relationships, silence can completely shift the dynamic. Imagine this. Instead of arguing back, you pause. Instead of explaining yourself over and over, you stay still. Instead of reacting emotionally, you let her sit in the quiet. That silence forces her to reflect. It makes her feel your strength without you lifting a finger. Women are drawn to men who can master silence because silence feels like confidence. Only a man who is truly secure can stay calm when others are restless. But here's the secret: silence is not about ignoring. It's about choosing when your words matter. It's about giving your voice more weight by not using it carelessly. When you speak less, every word you do speak becomes stronger, sharper, harder to forget. That's why people lean in when a quiet man finally talks, because they know he doesn't waste breath. If you can master the art of silence, you won't just gain respect. You'll gain influence. In a world of noise, the man who can stay calm, steady, and silent will always stand out. She will crave your attention because you don't give it away recklessly. And when you do choose to speak, your words will echo far longer than anyone else's. How influence speaks louder than words. Most men believe that leadership in relationships is about talking, convincing, or constantly proving themselves. But here's the secret most never learn. True leadership is silent. It is not found in shouting, not in forcing, not in endless explanation. It is found in presence, and presence alone has a weight that words can never carry. When a man walks with certainty, when he knows who he is and where he is going, he doesn't need to explain. His very silence communicates strength. His calmness communicates control. His refusal to be rushed communicates power. And women feel this without him ever having to say a word. Think about the greatest leaders in history, or even the mentors you've respected most in your life. They didn't need to scream for attention. They didn't need to repeat 1,000 times what they wanted. They spoke once, if at all, and people followed. Why? Because their energy was undeniable. Their presence carried authority. Their silence was filled with meaning. In relationships, this becomes even more important. A man who explains himself too much, who justifies every action, who tries to convince a woman why he deserves her love, he instantly loses respect. His words betray his insecurity. But a man who moves with quiet assurance, who doesn't explain what doesn't need to be explained, creates an aura of leadership that makes a woman naturally want to follow his direction. Silent leadership also builds mystery. The less you reveal, the more she leans in. The less you explain, the more she wants to understand you. And the less you try to convince, the more convincing you become. Because people always chase what feels rare, and silence makes your presence rare. But don't mistake silence for passivity. Silent leadership is active, it's intentional. It is guiding through action, not words. It is showing her through consistency, not promises. It is leading without making her feel forced, because your energy already sets the tone. For example, if you carry yourself calmly in chaos, she feels calm. If you stay collected under pressure, she feels safe. If you refuse to lower your standards, she naturally rises to meet them. That's silent leadership at work. It doesn't demand respect, it earns it. The real beauty of silent leadership is that it shifts the balance. Instead of you trying to chase her validation, she begins to seek yours. Instead of you constantly reassuring her, she starts reassuring you. Because deep down, women are drawn to men who create structure, who provide stability, who move like they don't need to beg for attention. And here's the key. When you embody silent leadership, you are not just attractive, you become magnetic. Your presence becomes the anchor in her storm. Your silence becomes a mystery she wants to solve. And your calmness becomes the safe space she never wants to leave. The magnetic power of legacy thinking. Let me share something with you that most men never even consider. It's not about chasing women. It's not about playing games. It's not even about being detached in the moment. It's about something much larger, something that will outlive you. It's what I call legacy thinking. And when you start to live from this mindset, you stop acting like just another man. You start becoming unforgettable. Legacy thinking is when you no longer think in terms of days, weeks, or even years. You think in terms of what your life is going to mean decades from now. You think in terms of what story people will tell about you after you're gone. Most men are trapped in short-term thinking. They're worried about whether a woman texted them back or if she's losing interest. But men who live by legacy don't get pulled into these petty distractions because they're focused on something eternal. Here's the secret. Women are naturally drawn to men who live for something bigger than themselves. A man who is only concerned with quick validation, attention, or instant pleasure is forgettable. He blends in with everyone else. But a man who walks with a sense of destiny, a man who builds his life as if he is writing a story worth remembering, that man becomes magnetic. Think about it. What makes women obsess over leaders, creators, builders, warriors, inventors? It's not just their looks or their charm. It's because they lived with vision. They weren't waiting for approval. They weren't wasting their lives reacting to the little dramas of the day. They were too busy building something that mattered, and in the process, they became impossible to ignore. You must understand this. Your legacy is not built when you die. It's built right now with the choices you make every day. Every moment you waste chasing someone's attention, you're stealing from your future self. Every time you lower your standards to get approval, you're weakening the story of your life. But every time you choose discipline, every time you put your energy into your craft, every time you make a decision that strengthens the man you are becoming, you're writing a story that will echo far beyond your lifetime. Legacy thinking also gives you something most men never taste: freedom. Why? Because when you know your life is meant for something greater, you stop fearing loss, you stop caring about rejection, you stop clinging to people who don't see your worth, because you know that the woman who truly belongs in your life will be drawn not to your begging or chasing, but to your mission, your vision, your legacy. Here's the real beauty of this mindset. When you live for legacy, women sense it instantly. They can feel when a man is heavy with purpose. They can feel when a man values his time like it's sacred. They can feel when a man walks into a room carrying not just himself, but the weight of a destiny he refuses to betray. And let me tell you, nothing is more attractive than that. So here's my challenge to you. Stop asking, how can I make her like me? And start asking, what will my life mean? Stop living for text replies and start living for history. Write a story with your life that makes women respect you, men admire you, and the world remember you, because once you do, you'll never have to worry about attraction again. Attraction will become the natural byproduct of the legacy you're building.